Let's start with question patterns. As you can see, for the first topic, we're going to review subject and object questions, negative questions, tag questions, and indirect questions. Let me show you some examples. Let's pay attention.
2.4. Who took this great photo? Which movie did you see? Haven't we been here before? You like museums, don't you? Do you know why he didn't go? Could you tell me if they're here?
Cindy, what can you notice? What differences can you find?
Well, the difference is that, for example, in the first group is with W questions and negative questions, and the other group is like um a question like with complement.
Yes, as you can see, we can find clauses, subject, verb,
Clauses.
subject, verb, complement, subject, verb, complement, and a short question. Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
And in the first list, sometimes we use a verb spelled in the grammar tense we need. Sometimes we have an auxiliary, and that auxiliary, as you mentioned, can be in negative. So for sure, these are the differences that we're going to review, starting off with the WH subject and object questions. This is something that you studied in the B1 plus level. What can you remember? How can we differentiate subject and object questions?
Subject is subject is the noun and object is the action or
Basically, we need to recognize the action in the sentence so that we know who does the action and who receives the action, right?
Exactly. Sí.
Let's say for example, Anna calls Rob. So in this sentence, we know that call is the action because that is the verb, right?
Yes.
Who does the action?
Anna.
Anna, for sure. That means that Anna is the subject of the sentence.
Exactly.
And who receives the action?
It's Rob.
Rob, because it's the receiver, we can call this one the object of the sentence. So now that we recognize the three elements, we can go with subject questions. Subject questions have the characteristic that you use the WH in order to replace the missing information. The WH is the subject of the verb. We use the positive form of the verb. That means that we don't use any auxiliary. And that one, do, does, did, we don't use those auxiliaries with this type of questions. Because the WH is the subject, the verb is spelled in the grammar tense we need, and then the complementary information. So we have a WH, verb, and the complementary information. Let's pretend that you were talking to a person and that person had a really strong accent or spoke really fast, and you didn't understand the subject of that information. You understood the verb, you understood the object, but you didn't understand the subject. Well, in that situation, we can create the subject question. So if we know that we're talking about a person, how can we start? How can we replace these elements of the subject question? What is the WH that you can use in here?
Who?
Because we know we're discussing about a person, who is the best one? What is the verb in the positive form?
The positive form,
the verb of the sentence. Exactly. We need to put this one in the singular form. It is calls, and the complementary information.
Calls Rob.
Yes, exactly. So who calls Rob? Oh, okay, so you want to know the subject, the person who does the action. In that case, we can answer, well, Anna. That way we create the subject question. Now, if I want to go with the object questions, in many WS questions, the question word or phrase is the object of the verb. In the object questions, we need to use the auxiliary verb before the subject. Previously, we had only three elements: WH, verb, complementary information. But in the object questions, now we're gonna need the WH, the auxiliary, the subject, and then the verb. The rest is complementary information. So most of the time, you will have WH, auxiliary, subject, and the verb. Like, who have you invited to your party? What are you doing? So if now we mainly need four elements, let's pretend that you didn't understand the object of this sentence. Again, because that person spoke really fast or that person had a really strong accent. So you know the subject, you know the action, but you don't know the object or the receiver. So how can we create the object question in here?
Okay. Who?
We know that a person received that action. So who is the WH? What grammar tense are we using?
Who does?
Mm-hmm.
Who does? Maybe he?
Who is the person doing this action?
Anna.
So we
She.
need to use Anna.
Oh, Anna.
Who does Anna? And what is the action that Anna is performing?
Call.
Exactly. We don't use the S because we have already the auxiliary, so the S is not necessary. So here you have all the elements: WH, auxiliary, subject, and the verb. Who does Anna call? Okay, so Anna calls Rob. There you have it. This who is replacing the object of this one. And that's the reason all this question is called object question. So Cindy, so far so good. Any questions at the moment?
No. Oh, it's okay.
Now, negative questions. Negative questions are pretty easy because it's the same way that you create the questions. But what you need to do now is to turn or flip the auxiliary into a negative form. Why do we use negative questions? The negative questions are used when you want to maybe confirm or double check something that you thought you know, but you're not sure. So the basic thing that we need to do is to use auxiliary, which could be the verb be or any other from different grammar tenses, such as did, do or does, have or had. Even modal verbs can be used in here. The regular thing is to contract the auxiliary. Wasn't she the woman we met last week? Don't you want to go out tonight? I'm not quite sure about something that I believe was that way. Didn't he write several novels? I think he wrote several novels. Is that right? As you can see, we just want to double check. We also use negative questions to express surprise or make a suggestion. Could you please help me with these two examples?
Okay. Haven't you been to this museum before? Shouldn't you start thinking about graduate school?
So, Cindy, where do you live?
I live in Barranquilla.
Okay, so I live in Barranquilla. I can ask, don't you live in Bogota?
No,
Because I thought that you live there. So, okay, so no.
I live in Barranquilla.
Or simply you can say, no, I don't,
I don't
teacher.
live. Okay.
No, I don't. This is just like a role play. I was pretending that I was one of your friends and I knew this information. So I thought that you lived in Bogota. So that's the reason in my question, I made a follow-up question in the negative idea. I thought that you live in that place. So don't you live in Bogota? So you answer, no, I don't. That's something that you can use in conversations. So far, so good. Any question with this, with the negative questions?
No.
This one is pretty easy, actually. Now, tag questions. Tag questions have the same function or they are used with the same idea. We use the negative questions. What is the difference now? The difference is that you have a statement, you put a comma, and then the tag question. That is the basic structure. Always. The statement first, and after the statement, you place a comma, and then you put the tag question. It is always like this. We never say tag questions alone. They are never isolated. They are always with the statement. So you need always two elements, the statement plus the tag question. We can use a statement with a tag question when we think that we know something, but we want to check. Basically the same thing that we did in the previous type of questions. What you need to do now is to change the intonation. The intonation rises on the tag question, like in here. Help me with these two examples.
You're from Spain? Are you? Are you?
Aren't you?
Aren't you?
Mhm.
He doesn't like art, does he?
Does he? So in the first, you're from Spain, aren't you? I think that you're from Spain. Is that right? My
Okay,
statement was positive. That's the reason that that question is negative.
negative.
My statement is negative. That is the reason that that question is positive. So this is the dynamic that you
Okay,
need to follow.
it's a different.
Yeah, basically you just need to recognize the type of statement you have and the tag question will be in the opposite form. We use tag questions as a conversation opener or to make a comment. So this is a conversation strategy as well. The intonation in this situation falls. It's a hot day, isn't it? So I'm just inviting you to answer my question as a conversation opener. He's not very organized, is he? I'm just giving a comment on something. So you might ask, if somebody says, you're from Spain, aren't you? Well, you just need to think what is the truth. If you're not from Spain, you say, no, I'm not. He doesn't like
The
art.
the best way to use is that right or is better, isn't it? For example,
Uh-huh.
is better, is that right or isn't it? What is the best?
Okay.
For
You just
example, is a hot day, isn't right? You understand? Are you understand? No.
no. What do
Um,
I believe that what you're trying to say is that if you need to use the test question or simply asking, is that right?
no, my question is, for example,
Mm-hmm.
um, if is better use in the answer, is that right or isn't it? Or for example, is better I use it's a hot day. Isn't that right?
Okay, let me try this
Or
way.
is the same?
Let's imagine a real conversation. Person A is talking to the person B, and the person A says, snow is black, isn't it? So we just need to think, is that right? If we're talking about snow, is the snow black? So that's something that we need to think in that type of questions. What is the truth? We know that snow is not black, it's white. So we know that this is not true, that this is false. So in my answer, I can say, no, it isn't. It doesn't matter that the question is in negative or in positive. That's not relevant at the moment of providing or creating my question. What you need to think or what you need to think further is the information in the statement. Snow is black. This is not true. So I say no, and then the negative information. I don't know if it's better now.
Yes, but I can use snow is black. Isn't right? Or isn't that right? I can use,
This one, is that right?
yes, I can use it.
Yes, for sure. You can say,
This is my question.
you can say, is that right? But what is the problem with this? This is A2 level. So maybe in the IELTS, if you need to use the tag questions, that won't give you points. That will give you points if you say, aren't you? If you do it this way, you're creating a conversation based on a B2 level student. So that is the thing. You are leveling up your speech. You can use is that right? But that is a basic creation. It's a basic type of question. So that's the reason
Okay.
now you need to include tags.
Okay.
As you can see, we have again positive statement, negative tag, negative statement, positive tag. With positive statements, we use a negative tag question. And with negative statements, we use a positive tag question. The negative tag for I am is aren't I. Help me with this example, please.
I'm usually right, aren't I?
So this is an exception. This is something that you need to bear in mind. If you are talking about yourself and using the verb be, in the tag question, you won't use am and I'd, or ain't I'd. You just use the verb in the form are, the negative, and then I. This is the only exception that you need to follow.
Okay.
I need you to use I, and I need you to use a student. Please create a tag question with a statement based on that information.
For example,
Mhm.
she's.
No, you. I need you to use the subject I.
Okay.
I.
I'm currently go.
I'm currently a student. How can you finish this one?
Aren't I?
Exactly. That was the practice. I just needed to have an answer like this. Statement, I, and then the verb be with a real information. I'm currently a student. That question, aren't, because you're talking in first person. Aren't I? This is the only exception as I mentioned previously.
Okay.
Cindy, so far so good. Any question at the moment?
No, it's clear for me.
Let's finish with indirect questions. In the indirect questions, we basically create polite questions. We need two parts. We need the question itself, and then we need a clause joined to that first part of the question. Because we have two types of questions, the yes/no questions and the information questions, we need to recognize the way that we can create both. We ask indirect yes and no questions with the following structure. The yes/no question, if, and then a clause, subject, verb, and the complementary information. If I say, did they play yesterday? The indirect question is, could you please help me?
Yes. Could you tell me if they played yesterday?
So let's say this question. Are you at home? This is a yes/no question. You can start your indirect question like this. Then if, and then the clause. Remember that the clause has subject, verb, and complementary information if it is included. So how can you use are you at home, but now as an indirect question?
Could you tell me if you went in
If you are
Uh-huh.
At home.
Okay.
It's exactly the same information that you had previously. It is exactly the same. But what is the difference now that you have
The
two parts?
structure.
Exactly. Subject, verb, and the complementary information, which is at home. In the beginning, you have the indirect question. Could you tell me? And then you join with if.
Okay,
Could you?
I thinking that I took that the structure is in past, but no, is in present too.
No, yes, exactly. You just need to recognize if the sentence is in the past, in the future, etc.
Okay.
For example, if we have this one, will you come? You can say, can you tell me if you will come?
Okay.
So it's the same information, the same pieces that we have in the just no question, but now organized as a clause, subject, verb, and complement. Can you tell me? It's just an introduction. It's just the indirect form or the polite form to invite the other person to answer my question. Can you tell me? Is one of them, but we have more. We can say, do you remember if, etc.
It's like a
Remember.
diplomatic form.
Yes, do you remember if? Would you mind telling me if? Could you answer if, etc. We have different forms to create this type of indirect questions. It depends on you. Always like that. Starting with the indirect question, and then we continue with the clause. As I mentioned previously, this is the just no question. We can also create the indirect questions from WH questions. In that one, the question word replaces if. So if I say, how much will it cost? The indirect question is,
Would you tell me how much it will cost?
So could you tell me the
How much
WH at the beginning, how much? So it is over here, how much? And then will it cost?
change will it cost?
It will cost, So let's say that I have this question. What is the problem? This is an information question. How can you turn this one into an indirect question?
Would you tell me what is the problem? The problem is, or
Remember subject and then verb. Subject in my question is the problem.
the problem is.
And the verb is the verb be. Is. So there you have it.
What is?
Could you tell me the WH what? And then the subject and verb. The problem is, and that's it. So in an indirect question, we cannot use the usual question order as you did previously. Do you know? And then where is with the auxiliary first and then the subject? No, this is not something that we can do. Always the clause structure. Subject, verb, and the complementary information if we have it, like in here. Subject, verb, and the complementary information. All right.